And the Northwestern thing we could talk about for a while. Obviously, the head coaching vacancy is out there. They're going to find another head coach. They're probably going to find somebody who's the exact opposite of Pat Fitzgerald because you know how PR goes. They're going to try to find something that steers everybody away from that conversation, and they eventually will. But I want to move on to another guy that we have talked about. And this is a little bit more funny, I think, because Pat Fitzgerald and everything at Northwestern is serious stuff. Bob Huggins, we talked about him a couple of months ago. Remember that little radio incident that he had with some, I want to say some insensitive comments with some West Virginia radio disc jockeys?
Yes, I do certainly recall Uncle Bob.
Yeah, well, Uncle Bob had himself a night a couple of weeks ago where he got a DUI. And I always thought that Bob Huggins was going to retire at the end of last season. Apparently, he didn't. They signed him to an extension, although they paid him a little bit less money, remember. And he was staying on as the head coach of the West Virginia Mountaineers basketball team. Well, after this DUI, apparently that was a bridge too far for West Virginia. I'm not really sure how they make that jump, and that just speaks to why I can't stand West Virginia University. And they decided, you know what? A DUI is too much. We can't have this. You're fired. Or they made him resign. And apparently he did everything he could to resign. He resigned in multiple different ways, signed all these different papers, supposedly, and recently came out via his lawyers who said, hey, you never fired me, or I never resigned, so I'm entitled to X amount of money. This is so ridiculous. Bob Huggins needs to just go away.
That's funny. We talk about this stuff with Bob Huggins, and it's like Pac-Man Jones says, "Hold my beer," right? Morgantown legend Pac-Man Jones. Anyways, one thing. This is like one funny thought I've had when we talk about how now he's all of a sudden like, I didn't quit. I didn't resign. I wish that somewhere he would say to somebody, or it was on record, where he was like, "I didn't resign. I was drunk when I said that." Like, I wish that would happen. That would be fantastic.
Would that be better, though? Because you and I both talk about authenticity. We talked about it earlier with Jimmy V. I would rather Bob Huggins be himself. You said it on that episode. Be who you are, but own it. Own everything about it. And if Bob Huggins came out and said, I didn't resign because I was drunk, at least I'd be like, okay, that's obviously who Bob Huggins is. But I think Bob Huggins falls in this category of old guys who don't want to be progressive in any way. I'm not asking you to be pro-transgender or anything like that, right? But I think that you cannot be down with the cause and just keep your mouth shut and not say anything. And if you get a DUI, be like, I think at this point in society, we have figured out that we're not supposed to drive drunk. I think everybody kind of knows that, right? This is not something that's uncommon. It's not something you have to go look up on Google. Everybody knows it. Don't drink and don't drive. Bob Huggins can't do either of these things, but at least be who you are and say, you know what? I f***ed up. I'm out. But no, he's not going to do that because legally speaking, he has to get a severance package because everybody needs to get their damn money. Same thing happened at Northwestern too. Pat Fitzgerald, I was not fired for probable cause. You take your money and leave.
Yeah, that's what it's about in these cases. I don't think that either of these guys are trying to argue that they didn't make a mistake. It's all just posturing so they could eventually settle on getting at least a portion of whatever buyout they're entitled to or believe they're entitled to. That's it, man. It's purely a money thing. And hey, we've said it before, man. Like, the end of the day, there's only one thing that matters, and it's the Benjamins.
But how stupid does this make West Virginia look? Like, how stupid does it make you look? You don't fire him the first time. You re-sign the guy. I know he got paid less money. I'm so sad for the guy. And then this is it? Like, this is the bridge too far. A
Iceman.
DUI. I just don't understand it.
Iceman, think about what you just say, man. How did you just start your last statement?
I don't know. I'm so fired up, I forget. I blacked out.
How stupid does this make West Virginia look? Like,
Fair
that's
point.
what you said. Okay? Like, you act like this is some unprecedented, like, behavior, right, from the Mountaineers. It's not, man. Like, it isn't.
Okay, let me be clear. Let me just be clear. First of all, if you have an opinion about any of this, 703-718-6314 is the number to give that. Perfect show right there, but I would love to know. I need to be perfectly transparent with everybody. We talked about authenticity. 2003, October of 2003, I believe, I took a trip to Morgantown, West Virginia with some friends of mine because the Virginia Tech Hokies, at that point in the season, the number 3 Virginia Tech Hokies were playing the West Virginia Mountaineers, who were one of our biggest rivals in a college football matchup. While Virginia Tech did what they do, they became the Chokies, and they lost a game when they are in the top 3 or against another good team. And that was the couch burning episode. I think that's when some of that started. Well, during that game, I had many things thrown at me merely for just wearing a Virginia Tech hat and jersey, not because I said anything. And so since that moment, when you have like one of those 9-volt, those big batteries thrown at you, those big guys that they use in like those camping lanterns.
Oh, yeah. I mean, who's gonna throw a AAA?
I know. I mean, I get it. Okay, you want the maximum amount of value. Well, when you hit what wasn't the Iceman at the time, but when you hit me with it, I'm going to have no respect for you. And I have no respect for West Virginia University. I have no respect for their football program, their basketball program. And that is me being transparent about my hatred. And I have a bias against you all. But I still think, objectively, though, how dumb does the university look by doing this? It doesn't have to be West Virginia. Just, it blows my mind. Like, where are we, man? Like, I thought college used to be pure, and now it's just a cesspool.
Come on, man. Like, they just got electricity. Give them a break. Like, I mean, like, I'll say this though, like in full like transparency. Like, I had a friend that went to WVU, and I went down there a couple times. Right, I went to a football game. This is in the Pat White, Steve Slayton, Pat McAfee days, man. And I tell you what, I had a really good time in West Virginia. To be honest with you, it's one of those groups of people that if you are a part of it. Now, we didn't throw any batteries at anybody. I wasn't a part of that. We did scream obscenities at some old people from Marshall, like that did happen. But no, there was no casting of batteries or any other large objects. I did not burn any couches. I did get kicked out of a diner. But anyways, I mean, yeah, whatever, just stupid stuff. I mean, I was probably doing my best Bob Huggins impression at Eaton Park in Morgantown, West Virginia, and like me and some buddies were we literally just sat down at the table, and like they had like a little window, and the window had like a flower bed in it, and I'm like, oh, these are 100% like plastic plants. And I just grab one and rip it out of there and sit on the table. Not a plastic plant, like 100% real plant. And we didn't have our drinks yet, man, and we were asked to leave. Not my proudest moment, but I'm guarantee you that's not the first time that someone's been kicked out of that restaurant for doing the same thing. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's definitely wild, and it'll be interesting to see kind of how this plays out. And I mean, do you think that he eventually, just like the Huggins eventually rides off into the sunset, or do you think that like he'll be a retread at some like desperate mid major?
Wasn't Rick Pitino at St. John's now? So they have decided that they're going to retread. Rick Pitino looks like a vampire. Like, there's just no getting around it. He looks terrible. He looks decrepit and terrible. Bob Huggins, I just don't think has the energy in him to change schools. Like, can you imagine Bob Huggins at an HBCU? Please, everybody laugh at this concept.
Oh no, no, not at all, man. No, not a chance. No,
You don't think he's the next Coach Prime, bringing Jackson State to the big heights of the NCAA
no.
tournament?
Who
I'm
was
not seeing it.
who was the program that he slandered? Why don't I think it was BYU? Is that who it was?
That would be perfect, wouldn't it? It's like the exact antithesis of who Bob Huggins is.
It was like, I thought it was either, I think it was like a religious school, or a school that had some like very specific affiliation. I don't know why it escapes me right now, but yeah, we'll see what happens there. It'll be interesting. It's always fun to poke a little fun at our friends in West Virginia. You know what we should do sometime, and we don't have to do it today, but maybe on some pick of the week or something like that's a little more relevant. We'll have to do a wager. If I win or if you lose specifically, you have to sing "Country Roads" by John Denver on an episode of Iceman and Coach.
I actually like that song.
Oh, I do too, man. I love it. Like I've definitely rocked it at karaoke a few times. Not anytime recently, but like 10 years ago.
I just want to say one more thing before we move on, that if your exploits in Morgantown, Virginia get this show canceled before we've even gotten things off the ground because somebody found video footage of it, I'm going to be very upset. I just want you to know that.
Hey, if they come at me, but old Bob can just do what he's been doing, then there's definitely a problem.